Hey everybody, Pat Mesiti here, and today there's some scary news out of the United States. What does it mean about your money? 3 banks have gone down. 3 banks have gone down in the United States. What does it mean for you? I'm going to cover that. And of course, the Pope has come out swinging. I want to read from an article that appeared this week, and Pope Francis claims that Vladimir Putin isn't the only one responsible for driving what he says is a third world war in Ukraine. And he says he points directly at imperial interests. Now, I'm not a great fan of the Pope, but in this case, he's actually right. And he added that he previously offered to he's called him an educated man, Putin, to negotiate a peace deal. But there are imperial interests here, not only of those of Russia. This is what he told Swiss television RSI. He said that there were imperial interests such as those of the United States. And he's right. What in the world is Joe Biden doing, and our country, I might add, in funding this operation? He said, Pope Francis said the involvement of other great powers back in Ukraine against the Russian Federation left no doubt that a world war and global conflict is happening. Old weapons being sold, new ones being tested. And it's absolutely, if you have a look at some of the other writings that have come out, and I actually believe that the Pope is right. And when all else fails, in a few weeks I'm going to be introducing a very special guest who says that when all else fails, send them to war. But today, economic news from the US. 3 banks have gone under. Now, let me tell you, this is not the first time. Now, there's some bad news and some good news. Let me just say this about banks. People are sick and tired of being robbed by the banks. I'm sure many of you are sick and tired. Where are you sick and tired? In 2008, after the banks made so much money, they became too big to fail. When they lost money, however, taxpayers, you and I, the government, our money, the taxpayers, had to pay for it. Now the banks have become bigger and the government can't afford to bail them out if they go broke. So new laws passed by many countries, yes, Australia and the USA included, so that you and I pay for it if the banks go broke instead of the government. It's called statutory bail-in case you were wondering. They tried it in Cyprus in 2013 and it worked like a charm. Bank depositors with 100,000 euros or more in their account were given worthless assets in exchange for money to bail out the banks. They called it financial relocation. I call it legal robbery. This also led to a new movement called decentralized finance, or DEFI. Now, I'm going to get to that in a second. It's a way to democratize finance the same way the internet democratized information. Now, not only can you have self-custody of your money through this, but you can also really cash in on this. But I want to keep talking about these banks. You see, these new laws that the banks introduced, called the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Act, there's another act passed where they can legally take your money. The banks and financial institutions keep charging us all sorts of fees and charges. To be exact, let me tell you how much. 9 trillion is taken every year from your hard-earned money through various transaction fees. 9 trillion, folks. $9 trillion is taken out of your permission. That's called robbery. $9 trillion. Now, here's a good thing. Here's a good thing, if there is a good thing out of that. Through decentralized financing, there is a way that you can actually capitalize, and I'm not going to get onto it here right now because to me, it's no point us whining and complaining. And I made a promise to you this year, if I'm going to raise an issue, I'm going to try and bring a solution. What DEFI means is that instead of banks charging transactions fees, which amounts to $9 trillion a year, you can actually get a slice of the pie. And even if you carry or capture, let me say, even if you only captured 0.0001% of $9 trillion, you'd be in seven figures. Now, I'm hosting a very special webinar this Wednesday that's going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about that. And by the way, let me just show you again, these are some of the amounts that can be made. Now, if you want to learn about that, you've got to come along Wednesday. But it turns out that Adam Bant has been, well, double dipping, we might say. Turns out the Green politicians are fine profiting from industries like coal and gas. It's just everyday Australians like you and I that are not allowed to benefit from these and not allowed to have jobs. We can't benefit from affordable energy and these vital industries. While Australians are struggling and living in crisis created by the Greens, devastated jobs, almost ruined a country that's relying on Australia's clean coal and natural gas. Adam Bant has been growing his retirement fund off the back of these industries. Look at this. I love the article that One Nation put out about it. Folks, we are getting robbed on every side. We're getting robbed on every side. It's okay for the elites to do that, but not for everyday Australians. Now, the banks that have been falling apart in America, they weren't major banks, but let me tell you, it starts as a trickle and then becomes a flood. And if you think your money is safe in the bank, I know many of you out there have had, you look at your statement and you go, what's that? What's that? What's that? That's the 9 trillion they're sucking out of your accounts. And by the way, you go to a bank today, you can hardly talk to a person. You got to somehow talk to someone overseas if you get on the phone. But I'm here to tell you there's some good news. To every up, there is a down. And this Wednesday, my expert is going to come in and show you step by step. I'll put a link in the chat how to get onto the webinar. I'm hosting a Zoom call with a DEFI expert this Wednesday. And if you are not on it, I'm telling you, you're going to be uninformed. Of course, they want to try and put in new digital currencies and all that kind of stuff. We know that. We know they're pushing for that. But you and I have to get smart before all of that starts to happen. We've got to get ahead of the game, folks. We can't be behind the 8 ball all the time trying to catch up. We can't get behind the 8 ball all the time trying to catch up. We've got to be ahead of the game and ahead of the rat race, ahead of the international mafia fund. We've got to get ahead of them. And people like you and I can work this system, and hear what I'm saying, to your advantage. But you've got to know how. When I heard about one bank, I thought, then I heard about a second, then I heard about a third. I went, here we go again, here we go again, here we go again. Now, folks, I believe we are entering into an international financial crisis worse than we have ever seen. I know it because the Bible says it. I know it because the economics show it. But I also know there's a great sense of prosperity that can happen. Though darkness cover the earth and deep darkness the people, arise, shine, for your light has come. Now, Wednesday, if you want, you can learn. You can learn about what's happening in the banking system. You can learn about what's happening. You know, America sneezes, we catch a cold. They drag themselves into a war, up their scales to cover their political ambitions and their criminality and corruption. What does Australia do? We follow the same. We follow the same, folks. So for goodness sake, get on this Zoom call. Again, it's Zoom. It's Zoom. Won't be on here. And learn, folks. And we've got to learn. We've got to learn. We've got to learn. This is not about greed. It's not about the love of money. It's about you being able to overcome. And please, don't anyone start putting up on here, oh, Pat Mesiti, the love of money is the root of all evil. I know that, but you've got to live. You've got to live. And we've got to be as wise as a serpent and as innocent as a dove. I could go on and show you statistics and so forth that are just horrific in what's happening. But there's some great news as well. Great news as well. Because of DEFI, or DEFI if you want to call it, there's a way you can turn things around to your advantage. Anyway, thought I'd give you a shout out about that on Wednesday. And, you know, I kind of, when I hear the Pope coming out making statements about World War III, kind of catches my attention. It's interesting. It's just interesting. Just today I was reading and listening to a timeline of prophecies and what's happened in the since 1948. I think since May 14th, 1948. May 14th, 1948. So just the timeline was interesting. And when I saw that article, I thought I want to speak about it. Anyway, Wednesday is going to be an amazing day. I will put a link here in the chat. And thank you for listening in. Third bank. Let's see how many banks by the end of the week go under. You and I don't want to be part of that. You and I want to be the kind of people that learn how to turn adversity into victory. God bless you, everybody. And by the way, if you think we're in Australia, our money's safe here, that wouldn't happen here, think again. Have a great day.